Morning world, it's Tuesday the 27th of August 2019, it's about 8 a.m. in the morning, and this is my latest take on the upcoming conjunction between Saturn in Pluto in Capricorn. The Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn will be, of course, conjoined by Jupiter in Capricorn, and the last time anything like this big happened was the time of the Reformation in Europe when Martin Luther was around, as a number of you have pointed out to me. But let's look at this from a more 21st century perspective. Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, and it will leave Capricorn initially in 2023, but completely in 2024. In that 16-year period, Pluto is transforming our attitudes towards the way we govern ourselves, whether that be in terms of world government, national government, personal governance. Capricorn deals with the rules and regulations of day-to-day life. It deals with the structures and the way we order our lives and the way that we live together in some type of consensus. Pluto is transforming these boundaries, and over this 16-year period we're seeing major shifts in the global attitudes towards the future governance of our planet, whether it be in terms of a world government or individual governments. Everything seems to be changing, the whole nature of governance, and people individually are beginning to ask questions such as, well, do I need a big government nanny state to tell me what to do now? Perhaps 50 or 100 years ago, when we were all working in the fields or the factories, we needed a lot more governance than we do now. But perhaps now that there's less of a kind of centralized workforce and many more people are working random hours or for themselves, then perhaps there's the idea of government needs to change and be transformed. Pluto in Capricorn so far has brought a great deal of personal transformation into a lot of people's lives. In the last year and a half, Saturn has been into Capricorn. Saturn moved into Capricorn initially for the very first time around about December 2017. It certainly spent all of 2018 and all of 2019 in Capricorn, and it will leave Capricorn initially around March 2020, and then leave Capricorn properly in December 2020. So it's basically a 2.5-3 year transit. In the time that Saturn has been in Capricorn, it has been going over the ground so far that Pluto has already gone over. So the analogy I'm using with clients on this is that so far Pluto has been in Capricorn, and it has, instead of just being a nice gentle ploughing up the top 6 inches of soil, Pluto has been going through people's lives with a 20-foot plough. It has been bringing up all of the very deep-rooted poison, the stuff that's been buried underground. It's really brought everything up to the surface, and it's brought it all up in a kind of volcano or a splurging out, and then it's left all of the poison lying on the surface, and then Pluto has moved on. And then Saturn has come behind and gone, wow, fresh ground, we can rebuild. You see, Saturn normally comes along and says, okay, we need a bit of restructuring here, let's repair the roof, let's redo the plastering. But now Saturn's moved into Capricorn, it's seen all the fresh ground that Pluto has ploughed up, and it's gone, we can start from the bottom up. And for many people, especially Capricorns born in December and the first 10 days of January, and Cancerians born in June and the first 10 days of July, and everyone really, this has been a time in the last year and a half of restructuring, reordering, rebuilding on the forced transformation of recent years. Now, Saturn and Pluto are drawing very close to each other in the sky, and they will join in January 2020. And I'll come back to this in a moment. After this, Saturn will move ahead of Pluto. So roles are going to be reversed. Saturn is going to move into late Capricorn, followed by Pluto over the next few years. So Saturn is going to be the precursor here. Saturn will move into areas that Pluto has not yet touched. So instead of Pluto ploughing up and digging up all of the poison in the ground, and then Saturn coming in and restructuring, Saturn is now going to go forward and will either have the impact of dampening down, pressurizing and bringing gravity and density into existing issues and trying to bury them. I mean, the recent scandals, I'm not going to mention names, but the recent scandals of this year are going to, for example, they'll try and be really suppressed and repressed, in which case Pluto will come along in the next couple of years and go, no, not having that, bring it up, bring it to the surface, and it will erupt, not just in a organic and gentle way, but in a way that is volcanic. Or, hopefully, Saturn will move forward and go, right, time to restructure this ground, time to freshen it up. And it won't dig deep as Pluto has done, but it will still dig fairly deep. So the top couple of foot of soil will be revealed and brought up, and then Pluto will come in and go, okay, we can transform this, we can regenerate this. So Pluto is going to be the secondary factor here. Initially, Pluto brought the forced transformation, with Saturn coming in afterwards and bringing the structure and the restructuring, the reordering. Now Saturn's going to go ahead, and Saturn's going to go, right, yes, no, black, white, prune, weed, streamline, let go, we'll keep that because that's good. Pluto's going to come after it and go, okay, let's improve, transform, regenerate and rebirth what Saturn's left us with. Saturn's going to be the selector, if you like. It's going to keep the cream and ditch the dross. Pluto will come in and transform what Saturn has left behind in a way that will hopefully be revelatory and transform the way we govern both our personal and our collective lives. Now, the actual time of early 2020 is hugely significant from an astrological perspective. The Saturn-Pluto conjunction itself occurs somewhere like the actual date, I believe, is the 12th of January. Okay. That is when, from an Earth-based geocentric perspective, the degree of longitude that Saturn and Pluto occupy will be the same. They won't be at the same degree of latitude, but they will be of longitude. So they will be in the same degree. That's conjunction in astrological language. The day before this, the day and a half before this, on the evening of the 10th UK time, there is the annual partial eclipse of the full moon in Cancer, and it's pretty damn strong. It's not exact, it's not a total eclipse, but at the time of the eclipse on the evening of the 10th of January, the Sun will be so close, 1.5 degrees away from Saturn and Pluto, and the full moon will be 1.5 degrees away from exactly opposite Saturn and Pluto. So this period of the 10th, 11th, 12th of January next year is hugely symbolic. And it suggests to me that around this time, the foundations, structures and boundaries of existing governance, society and economy that have been been trying to be firmed up in accordance with the old rules from the past will start to inevitably and irrevocably shatter, become brittle and collapse. Whilst those structures, organisations and companies that have danced with the times and have changed their boundaries, structures, rules from concrete and steel into transparent rubber and elastic, those, for example, companies who are adopting a more open attitude towards their employers, flexibility, gender equality, and adapting a more 21st century attitude towards the idea of work or governance or personal lifestyle management, they will thrive and prosper. The idea of bending the rules, not breaking them, is something that's coming up here. But it gets more convoluted than this. Shortly after this conjunction, And bearing in mind that by this time Jupiter is in Capricorn, bearing down on Saturn and Pluto. Shortly after this conjunction, Mars will move into Capricorn. And from the 17th of February through to the 30th of March, Mars will be in Capricorn as well. And there will be a quadruple conjunction of Mars, Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto in the last 7 or 8 degrees of Capricorn, based around the equinox, 19th, 20th, 21st of March. This is at the time of the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, which needs to be looked at in a separate light, and we will do that at another day. But it does seem to me that the period of early January to late March seems to in many ways compress and condense the build-up of astrological intensity that's been ongoing since perhaps the late 1990s. And I am on record as calling this some type of nexus time. It is possibly the most compressed and concentrated time of astrological change in terms of intensity that I can remember, that I've seen in my life. And looking ahead into the next 5 to 10 years, I'm not really seeing. Yes, I'm looking perhaps 6-7 years ahead at the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 29 Pisces, 0 Aries, and that really is representative of a brand new start. But that's not coming up until 2026, maybe 2025. Let's get to there. But what we're seeing over this next 6 months is the collapse and, although I don't like to use the word, the destruction of old, rigid patterns of behaviour, whether it be in terms of political opinion, economic process, professional attitudes. The old is coming to an end. The new has yet to fully emerge. But those people, institutions, governments, companies who adopt a degree of flexibility and adaptability, who bring a greater sense of balance and equality into their practices, will thrive and prosper. Whereas those who try and stick to the old systems of profit above all else, which is kind of quite patriarchal, will crash and burn. We're heading into, astrologically, the most intense period of almost all of our lives since the Second World War. And it's going to be stimulating, it's going to be exciting, it's going to be very scary, it's going to be interesting, and it's also going to be revelatory. And for those people who can surf this, and for those people who know their astrology, those people who will able to dance with this, should really thrive and prosper, grow in intelligence, maturity and wisdom, and come out of this in a much stronger way. More on this later. Catch you later, world. Bye.